Jack Quaid stars as the unlikely vigilante Huey Campbell in Amazon Prime Video's original series The Voice, in which superheroes are revered as godlike celebrities, where the show is very entertaining and it explores what happens to these celebrities when they go rogue and abuse their powers. I'm Rob LaCouria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby. And Jack, what in particular were you most excited about when taking on this role?
Well, thanks for having me, Rob, first of all. I think I was just really excited to do something based off of a comic book and something in the realm of superheroes. I know that my character doesn't necessarily have powers, but I found that to be really interesting of like, okay, who is an average person in this world that's anything but average? So I just enjoyed being the character who gets to like react to this insane world around him. And I also just like him as a person. I read the comic book series, all of them front to back, just to kind of get a sense of, you know, who the character was. In the comic books, he looks a lot different than I am. He's 6'3". Huey in the comics is like, I think he's like 5 feet, maybe smaller. They call him Wee Huey. He's based off of the likeness is based off of Simon Pegg, circa Spaced, and he is Scottish in the comics. So I knew I sounded and looked nothing like him. So I wanted to get a sense of like, okay, who is this guy on the inside? Why do people like him? What is kind of what makes him tick internally? So I used that, and I just really like the guy, and I feel honored that I get to be able to play him, and then to, play off of people like Carl Urban and Aaron Moriarty, everybody in the cast. It's just been like lightning in a bottle personally, because you don't usually get to work with all these people who are also talented and also are genuinely your friends. So it was a great cast and just a really fun character to play. I'm rambling a lot, but yeah.
No, not at all. It's really interesting because, to be honest, I wasn't really that familiar with the source material when I first watched the show. So I wasn't really that kind of in the know about the departures that they made from the source material, particularly with your character. I'm really interested to know why they decided to go in this direction and cast you and have you kind of make it your own. Like, you weren't really familiar with it either before you took on the role. Is that right?
No, not at all. In fact, when I first read the script, I didn't know it was based off a comic book at all. It was like a script that came in, hey, do you want to audition for this? And I took a look, and I just thought that somebody wrote a really fucked up, sorry, I don't know if I can swear, but a really, I should swear? You encourage it? Okay. A really, I thought that somebody wrote a script about the world as it is today, but just added superheroes into it. And then I did a little bit of research, found out it was based off a comic book. And when I was auditioning for it, I didn't want to have any of the source material in my head. I wanted to like come in and do it my way. Because I didn't want to like be doing an impression of something, or I didn't want to be motivated by anything really. It's kind of like, it's the equivalent of, okay, I'm playing a role that somebody else played in a movie from a while ago. Don't watch that movie, because ultimately that's going to get your subconscious, and you're going to do a kind of impression of that, but you just want to make it your own. So yeah, but as I was auditioning, I didn't look at any of the source material. Then afterwards, I was like, okay, I have to devour this now because this is real.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, speaking of things that are really fucked up, this show does that plenty. So, like, for example, for anyone who hasn't seen it, if you're really that interested before you see it, there's a baby with killer lasers coming out of its eyes. There's a woman who crushes a man's skull in her crotch. There's an invisible guy who's exploded. But probably the most memorable, right at the beginning of the show, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into, there's you beautifully holding hands with your beautiful girlfriend, and then suddenly A-Train carelessly obliterates her, and you left literally holding her hands. So tell me about that scene, because that was how we all came into this show. And we realized, oh, shit.
Yeah, well, that is a scene from the comics. It plays out a little bit differently in the comics, but it's the catalyst for everything. It's why Huey wants revenge from the Soups. It's why so many events. It's why Butcher finds Huey and tries to manipulate him into joining forces. So much happens based off of that moment, and that was like my second, maybe third day on set for the entire project. So it was really nerve-wracking because that scene is darkly funny in a lot of ways, just because it's so extreme and insane. I think that for a while, it was hard for me to kind of elevator pitch the show to my friends because there were so many elements. But if I just kind of told them about that moment, they kind of got it. And I think that when you watch the show and you see that, you're like, oh, okay, I know what this show is now. So it is kind of darkly funny, but I really wanted to make sure I played it as real as possible because it has to feel like a loss for a person that we don't really get a ton of time with. Robin, we don't really get a ton of time with her. So I really tried to make sure that Robin meant a lot to Huey and that you understand why he does you understand from that moment why Huey does all the things that he does. Because if it was just kind of played just for a laugh, I don't think that would have worked as well. It would have been shocking, but I really wanted to make sure it felt like a real person was getting lost, albeit in a crazy way. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly what happened because firstly, if you're not expecting it, it's quite shocking, but it's also like, I thought, oh, what a lovely couple. And she seems like a really great character. And I really kind of almost care about her already. And then bang, she's gone. So, I mean, I think that's actually really important. On the other hand, the really gross...
Sorry, real quick shout out to Jess Salguero, who played Robin, who had like maybe 2 scenes and everyone just loves her automatically.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the credit I think for that goes to her as well. She's awesome.
Yes, absolutely right. But then in the a couple of episodes later, or maybe it was the next episode, when Translucent is exploded from the inside out.
That's the next episode too.
Yeah, that was insane. And Huey ends up literally wearing him all over his face and chest and stuff. Can you talk us through the shooting of that? Like, was there a lot of takes to do that? Were there many bloopers? Like, how did that actually pan out?
I think that one was one take. That one was the actual explosion was one take. And we made sure to cover, every angle of it while we did it so that I didn't have to clean myself up and then do it again, because that'll take forever just to get it out of your clothes, I've become kind of an expert on getting fake blood on me. We just wrapped season 2 and I can't spoil anything, but that has not changed. There's even more blood in that season. Oh dear God, I'm so happy we got it in one take. But it's scary because you're looking down the barrel of a blood cannon and you know it's going to hit you. But especially with the scene, the same thing happened when Robin kind of gets evaporated in my hands. You have to act like you don't know that's coming when there's like a thing literally aiming at your face, and you know it's gonna somewhat hurt, and the anticipation is there, and it's so scary. But you have to act like you're not expecting it at all. And I think that's the biggest challenge for that, is to pretend that there's not a cannon aimed at your face. Yeah.
Oh my God, that never occurred to me, but that would be really quite challenging.
We just from the behind the scenes stills, I literally have a shot of a guy shooting it.
That's horrifying.
It comes this close too in the photo. It doesn't quite hit me. It's like here.
That's brilliant. So Huey's part of this, the good guys, the boys, the scruffy group of misfits who are banding together to expose and destroy the chokehold that the Soups have on society. Talk us through working with those cast members. Did it take long for you guys to gel, particularly Carl Urban as Billy Butcher?
No, we all kind of fell into our roles really quickly, and we became friends almost instantly. Carl and I, we met one day. We kind of did like a little light rehearsal, and we hit it off pretty much instantly. He's kind of like my big brother, and the big brother I never had in a lot of ways. And he's taught me so much, and I absolutely love working with him. And you know, the same goes to the rest of the boys. We've just kind of formed this crew, and we're all similar to our characters in certain ways, which is really interesting. And you know, it's just I have like a team now in my life of people that are just so cool and interesting and come from so many different backgrounds. And yeah, it didn't take us long to find a groove. And I think what I really actually am excited about in season 2 is that I think our dynamic as a group really evolves, and you get to see it go through different kinds of stresses. And I can't give too much away, but I'm really excited for people to see that. But yeah, everyone is just incredible. I think the first time Carl and I really talked was I said, hey, there's this bar in town that has Terror on it. Terror is Butcher's English bulldog from the comics. And there was a place in Toronto where we shoot called the Dog's Bollocks. And I was like, let's just meet there. It's perfect. It has the dog right on the front. The name is something your character would say. And we just played pool and had beers and chatted up. And, you know, we've been friends ever since.
That's cool. Hey, it's really important when you're working on a series with a cast to have that rapport. Can you imagine maybe you've been there where you're working on a series where that rapport is not there and it's all kind of fake? That would be quite challenging, I would assume.
It could be really bad. I've been fortunate in my career to not really have that at all, really. I think one of the things that I'll give Eric Kripke the credit on that. You know, our amazing showrunner. He, I think, casts people with a no asshole policy, which is important, I think, on anything, because one person can really derail something. And I'm happy to report we really don't have that on our show, and it's been a dream to work on, like both on the boys' side, and all of the Soups are also very incredible people that I'm lucky to work with. So yeah.
Yeah, that's actually very important to have a no asshole policy on anything you're working on. You say you've touched on season 2. I know you can't give anything away because then unfortunately you probably will be fired, and we really don't want that.
No, not have this be my demise.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of season 1, there was many of us around the world who were just like, what? It was just like, shit, I need to see more. So I'm really glad that you've shot the second season. Can you at least tell us, are we going to get some answers? Is it more exciting? Is there more action? What can you tell us about it without getting into trouble?
I think that season 2, in my opinion, is better than season 1. And I'm very biased, obviously, but I think we have a lot more action. We have a lot more of those crazy moments that we're known for. But I think that we really get in deep with every single character, and we, you know, it's bigger, but it's also deeper, which I think is really important, especially for season 2. And you really get to find out what makes everybody tick. And there's one scene, I can't give it away, but there's one scene, and you'll know when you see it, that is the craziest thing I've ever done in my life. It just bar none, the most insane situation. I can't say anything else, but I can't wait for everybody to see it. And again, you'll know when you see it.
Oh, I can't wait. I really can't wait. You know, when I was watching The Boys, and you know, sometimes you go into IMDb, you're like, oh, who is that? And oh, what's that guy been in before? And I happened to be looking up the cast, and I had no idea that you have, you know, really famous actor parents. And and I'm sure you get asked about it all the time. But what I'm interested in to know is, like, obviously you've learned a lot as an actor over your career today, and from when you were training. But what do you learn from, like, your family who are also doing the same thing that you do? What do you learn from them that you really not necessarily can learn professionally?
I think it's weird. People ask me that kind of question all the time, and I've never had like an acting class with my parents. You know, like they've never been like, you know, they never like sat me down. They're like, this is how you cry. Like that's never happened. I think mostly what I really feel lucky to have had them in my life for is that it kind of their support was just complete from the get-go. Like, I think they really understand how tough this business can be, and how and just how insane your day-to-day life can be sometimes. And yet they still were like, okay, you want to be an actor? Great. You know, because they understand it from their own lives. And they, you know, I'm glad that I didn't have parents, you know, like a normal parent would be like, oh, you want to be an actor? Oh, that doesn't make any sense at all. But they obviously were super supportive, because they, you know, they know what it's like, and they know what it's like to have this itch that you need to scratch. And it's been, you know, they've been super supportive every step of the way. And, you know, I'll call my mom earlier in my career. Definitely, I would call her all the time just to be like, what's the table read like? You know, just stuff like that. Yeah, no, never really quite taken the like Meg Ryan acting class yet, but
that'd be fun.
It'd be fun. No, she can do it.
Yeah.
But no, they've just been incredible resources for support this whole time, so I'm very grateful for that.
It's so cool to hear from people in all professions when their parents have been such a, you know, a huge support for them growing up and learning their trade. And so that goes for everybody. So I was also really curious to know about Star Trek Lower Decks before we finish up, because I noticed that you're on that. And I love it how CBS All Access is bringing out all this really awesome Star Trek, because I'm a huge Star Trek nerd from when I was a kid. So what can you tell us about that? Because that looks awesome.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know when it's coming out. I know I've recorded most of my stuff for it, but it's a new Star Trek show. It's animated. It's from Mike McMahon, who was one of the writers on Rick and Morty, and he's freaking hilarious. Yeah, he has this Twitter account basically where he had it for, or I think maybe still has it, where he's just pitching new ideas for next generation episodes constantly, and he is just freaking hilarious. And the show is super funny, but it is definitely still Star Trek. It's, if you are a huge Star Trek nerd, like you say you are, you're going to get a lot of the references and a lot of the kind of deep jokes. But I think even if you're new to it, I think it's something really cool to introduce you to the Star Trek universe as well. Like me speaking personally, I didn't know a ton about it when I got cast. I had seen the J.J. Abrams movies, but now I'm like into it. I'm watching Next Generation now in quarantine, and I'm trying to, because I realized like, oh man, I have to do my research on this. This is like a world. And I'm loving it, because I always considered myself a huge Star Wars fan, and now, you know, Star Trek's coming up, you know, they're about equal now. So I think it's a super funny show. It is a comedy, it's animated, but it is definitely still Star Trek, which is awesome.
That is awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm so looking forward to season 2. I loved The Boys. I thought it was one of the best things I'd seen this season. Thank you so much, Jack, for your time today. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Now, everybody go to goldderby.com, make your predictions for The Boys. Before you go, click subscribe and watch all of our great contender chats. You've got nothing else to do. You're at home. You might as well watch them. So we'll see you next time.